Hello everybody, I'm jiaozai. Welcome back. Let us try to answer this problem from Purple Comet on calculus. There are relatively prime positive integers m and n, also known as m and n have the greatest common divisor of 1. So that the parabola with the equation y equals 4x squared is tangent to the parabola with the equation x equals y squared plus m over n. Find m plus n. Give this problem a try. You can pause the video. But if you're done, let us dive into the solution. Now, first of all, we say that two functions with equations y equals f of x and y equals g of x are tangent to each other at x equals c if two conditions are satisfied. So f prime of c equals g prime of c, so their first derivatives are the same. And number two, f of c equals g of c. Well, obviously, they should intersect at a point. So if those two graphs intersect at a point c comma f of c and c comma g of c, they should be equal, since if two graphs are tangent, then they only intersect at one point. And obviously one should hold because that's the definition of being tangent. So the first derivative, which also tells you the slope of the tangent line to the function, so f prime of c equals g prime of c. So always remember these two. Now don't worry about being able to differentiate, since the given equations are parabolas, so we don't have any problem with continuity here, since the two parabolas are continuous. Now to satisfy the first one, where the two first derivatives are the same, we first differentiate both functions with respect to x. Now for y equals 4x squared, that's just simple, it's just power rule. We can get that y prime equals 8x. And now for the second one, we can use implicit differentiation. Now take note that m over n, since m and n are just positive integers, the fraction m over n is a constant. So differentiating both sides, x will just become 1 on the left side, and then for the right hand side, the derivative of y squared plus m over n is simply 2y y prime. Now we can solve for y prime in the second equation. Y prime is 1 over 2y. Since we want the two first derivatives to be the same, we must have 8x equals 1 over 2y. Now let's call this equation star. Okay, that's we've taken care of the first condition. Now let's go to the second condition. We must make sure that f of c equals g of c, or which simply means that the point is common in two graphs. So if we go back to the item, there are two equations given, but the second equation is technically incomplete because we don't know the value of m over n. So let's use the first equation, y equals 4x squared, because we can get the relationship between x and y. Now, y equals 4x squared is simply saying that all points on the parabola y equals 4x squared is of the form x comma 4x squared, as seen here. Now this is very simple. X will just be x, and then the y here will just be replaced by 4x squared, since y equals 4x squared as per this equation. So we substitute y equals 4x squared into equation star. So we will get that 8x equals 1 over 2 times 4x squared, which is 8x squared. Now from this equation we can solve for x because everything is in terms of x, and we get that the value of x is 1/4. Now since we have the value for x, we would obviously know what's the point on the graph. Now this gives us that the point of tangency is at x comma 4x squared, which at x equals 1/4. So we substitute x equals 1/4, which gives us that the point of tangency is at 1/4 comma 4 times 1/4 squared, which is 1/4 comma 1/4. Now to satisfy the second condition, this point should also be on the second parabola, which is x equals y squared plus m over n. Thus we substitute the point 1/4 comma 1/4 into this equation. All we have to do is solve for m over n, substitute x and y, both are 1/4 anyway, and then solve for m over n. So we have m over n equals 3 over 16. Now going back to the problem, m over n, sorry, m and n are relatively prime positive integers, so which simply means that m equals 3 and n equals 16. Since m over n in the previous slide is 3 over 16, which is already in lowest terms. So we have m equals 3 and n equals 16, which gives us the sum of m and n. So m plus n equals 19. And this will be our final answer.